Facebook Live, which is really exciting. Takes people a couple of minutes to
Sure.
get all excited about this conversation, and then I get to share with people. Free network is Amy. Hopefully Amy will join us tonight too.
I just left our
Right.
Fort Myers, Broward, Palm Beach.
And Nicole's on. Great. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to welcome everybody here again tonight. Sorry we missed last Tuesday with Jordan Rodriguez, but we will reschedule him. I was out of town on a personal matter. So tonight I have Rick Root, who is the president of the Florida Association of Licensed Investigators. He also is a private investigator with a history of law enforcement. So, we're going to talk a little bit about, school, kids going back to school, online, offline. But if you would be so kind, Rick, to give people just a little bit of your background so they can get related to you. And I just appreciate you being on with me again tonight.
Sure. My name is Rick. I spent 6 years Air Force Security Police, doing anti-terrorism and nuclear weapon recovery. After that, I left that and went into private law or community law enforcement, where I spent the next 20 years as a law enforcement officer and retired as a lieutenant, and then worked in private security, running a major corporation. And then after that, I got into the PI business with my brother, Dennis Root, who is a well-known expert throughout the United States in use of force. And here I am. I'm the president of Florida Association of Licensed Investigators for the 4th year. And I run my own agency called Richard Root Investigations Incorporated. I'm a grandpa. I've been married 36 years. And I have 1 daughter. So now you know everything about me.
Yay! So Melissa joined us, and Lainey joined us, and people, because I'll keep coming back and forth to my Facebook Live so we can engage with the people.
Here, and I run my own agency called Richard Root Investigations.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk back to school safety, right? And look, these are weird times. We're going back to school, some online, some in person, parents can choose, teachers can choose. And what that just tells me is it just puts more chaos in the space. You were telling me something about your daughter. So why don't you share a little bit so you can be like, so people really get you're in the thick of it with them.
Yeah. I hear myself repeating this. My daughter teaches in Palm Beach County. She's a public school teacher, and my granddaughter goes to 1st grade. And Palm Beach County, my grandson goes to pre-K 4 at a private school, which all of this mess, that's probably the better way to put it, they're going to school online. So picture this. My daughter's a school teacher, so she has to teach. My granddaughter's a 1st grader, so she has to go to school. They both have to be on computers. My daughter can't supervise my granddaughter. My wife is watching my grandson. I work, her husband works. So we have a 6-year-old granddaughter. She has a 6-year-old daughter that's going to be online, even though it's in a classroom setting, all by herself. And there's that fear in me that, okay, what's going to happen? I'm sure the school systems are doing everything they can to make sure that everything is secure, but these black hats are constantly trying to figure out what everybody's doing to get in there and create chaos. And then who's my granddaughter talking to? And yeah, it's Johnny, but is it really Johnny?
Leaves a lot of questions. Really leaves a lot of questions. So, let's kind of pull this apart, because it's a perfect scenario, right? And I promise you, you're not the only one dealing with this, right? And imagine having more than 2 kids.
Oh,
Right? Imagine having more than 2 kids. So that's the OMG. And, I've been reading some articles. Even the CDC is like, our kids have to go back to school, which I thought was really interesting. Hey, Christina, thanks for joining. And so let's take this apart a little by little. So for parents that have kids, they're going to, at minimal, start online. Like, what are some things that parents can share with their kids? Because you're talking about black hats, right? So black hats they know where our kids are, they know what to look for, they know what to say, they know what to do. And then you have a little little 6-year-old first grader online all by themselves.
yeah. I
Right.
think,
So what's something that a parent can, like, especially, we'll start littles, like what's a conversation parents can have with the littles first about online safety, do you think?
their conversation. How can we make sure that they're aware of who's in their classroom, even if someone has to stay home, or grandma or grandpa has to look over their shoulder or whatever, get a feel for who's in their classroom. Because what you don't want is, okay, there's 20 kids in a class that's online, and all of a sudden this 21st child shows up and starts having these conversations, or inappropriate conversations. I mean, I listened to some of the stories from not only my daughter, but other people that I know that teach, and some of the things kids say today are just amazing. But your child needs to know if something is said to them that doesn't feel right, and they understand what you're telling them, they need to tell you about it. As an adult, you need to make sure the school system that you're attending online is doing everything they can to ensure that whether it's Google or Zoom, is as secure as possible. Because we saw what happened last year, or at the end of last school session, where Zoom got hacked and there were issues, big issues. Children were exposed to certain things that they should never see. So you want to make sure that you have that rapport with your child, that when something is not right, they're going to come to you. They're not going to hide it. And they need to know that they can come to you without getting in trouble.
Yeah. So really creating, what I'm hearing you say is really create a safe space for your child. So if something happens, you can be like, remember, sweetie, we talked about this. And I love the idea of getting a class list from the teacher. So you can double check with your, work side by side with your child before they, step into that virtual classroom, that they can be like, okay, you've got Susie, Billy, Sally, like that. So you're like, the kids start to know who is in their classroom. I think that's really, really important. So if some other person comes wandering in, your child is going to know and be able to say something immediately to the teacher.
Right. When I was on last time, we talked about communication, and I sound like a broken record. If your child doesn't feel comfortable with you as the parent, they're not going to tell you anything. If you yell at them because they tell you something, they're not going to come to you when something is worse, and because they know they got yelled at last time, and it really wasn't their fault.
And it's hard too. And that's the coaching I give the youth when we're out in the community is like, look, you're going to share something with your parents. They're going to have a reaction. They're human. It's our job to keep you safe, right? And if we hear someone's harming, like, we are going to get upset, and we're not getting upset at you, right? Children have a tendency to collapse the upset that it's over here with them. And no, I said, look, you're going to have to give your parents a little space. They're human. They're going to get upset because someone's trying to harm their child, and then with parents, I'm like, take a deep breath in. I know you got all kinds of emotions happening. Just take a deep breath. And, and even say it, go, look, honey, I'm upset, and I'm not upset at you, and wait until it settles in with your child. It's like, I'm upset. Mommy's feeling all kinds of emotions, and mommy is not mad at you. right? Mommy is not mad at you. Mommy is upset that someone's trying to harm you. And being able just to language that can make a huge difference for a kid. It's like, oh, whew, okay, mom's mad. That's good, but not mad at me.
Right. As much as the school system's trying to figure this out, now the parent is trying to figure this out between their job, schooling online, childcare, protecting the child from predators online. Because let's face it, the other thing too is the camera's on, but I can go to a different screen. You still see me. I look like I'm paying attention, but I'm really watching something else.
Mhm.
So, you got to have that checks and balances also.
Yeah, really. And I think a lot of online can show that for you, because you can actually go into your laptop and not let them have access to anything else other than what you want them to have access to, right? And
Yep.
that's really something that I think parents want to take on. Or, look, I'm multi, I've got Facebook on my phone so I can see who's watching us. We've got Yvette that joined us, and Yola that joined us, and Christina that joined us, right? And I'm having a conversation with you. So I'm dual screening it,
And
right?
now you're wondering if I'm actually watching you or just looking at something online.
Exactly. So, one of the things that, because I've been doing a lot of Zoom stuff, and if I want to talk to somebody, I'll take my glasses off and I'll look right at the little green dot. It's like, so you get, I'm really talking to you, and that has people, because a lot of times people want to look down here and look at the pictures, not a problem, but then you don't have the experience of being with people. And that's something that teachers can look for. If the student's just answering and they're looking down or they're looking over, that right there would be a heads up for a
Right.
teacher or someone on the other end, say, uh-oh, I don't know if they're paying attention to me. I don't know if they're being with me.
And about paying attention, if you are a stay-at-home parent or you work from home, position your child so that like my computer is directly in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could position, if I'm sitting at a desk, or maybe you move everything into the dining room table,
Yep.
but you position it so that your child is facing in the same direction you are. So if I just lean across, I can see what's on their computer screen and then go back to doing mine. A lot of times you're, opposite each other and you
Well, you
have
don't
no
want to do
clue.
that because you have no idea what's happening on the other side.
Right.
It's really, and look, we're going to be spending a lot of time doing this for the next few months. It's just what's so. There's some parents that aren't going to send their kids back at all. Not a problem, right? And it's really important that you pay attention. We've had a few more people join us, Donna and Oriana, and hey, Pete Clark, so happy you're here, and Pam Hayden. So thanks for, and please share, because this is a really great conversation for parents to hear, is to have your kids side by side with you at the dining room table or the bar table, or what, for that matter, go sit outside. You can totally sit outside in your patio or your front porch, or park a couple of lawn chairs underneath a tree for an hour. So you're getting some space outside and you're right next to your child, so they can, look, if you're a single parent, you got two kids, you got them on either side, right? And to really manage your safety features on your laptop, because you can monitor that. You can manage that. And I'm going to put some links in my thread below for ways to do that safely. Okay, so that's for our little guys, right? Some simple things you can do for our little guys. Now let's talk about middle school. I love middle schoolers. They're my favorite. They're my favorite group to go in and talk to, because they're coachable. They care. They still have some empathy, and they're old enough to really understand what we're talking about. When I say, that gut feeling, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's the same kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about middle schoolers, because some middle schoolers, we've got some rising sixth graders that might be walking to school for the first time because their middle school is close. So let's talk about the kids that are going to be walking to school. What are some things they can look out for to make sure they stay safe going from home to school and school back?
Walk in groups. Don't walk by yourself. I don't care how mad you are at your best friend. Be mad when you get home. Don't, walk in groups. If they have phones, especially iPhones, make sure Find My iPhone is on.
Mm,
Make sure that they understand it doesn't matter who it is, that no one's picking them up. They're to walk straight home. You know, even if they're going to go to Johnny's house to
yep.
do homework, they need to check in. They need to go home and check in. If nobody's home, I would still have them go home and put some bags away, because that way, if something is going on, someone is following them, someone is watching them, they're now home. They're at a place they feel secure. They can lock a door and they don't have to worry about anything.
Right. Exactly. You know, and I think I think walking groups is everything. And where I live, you know, last year I'd see these little guys, you know, clearly first, second grade, walking all by themselves home, and they're portable. It takes 30 seconds for someone to open a car door, scoop them in, and they're gone.
And they have a handle because it's called a backpack.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you know, walking in groups to and from school, making you have your Find My iPhone on, and, you know, making, you know, really coming home at the end of the day and calling your mom. I have one friend who's a survivor, and she says, I make my daughter talk to me from the time she walks out of the school, you know, chain link fence, to the time she walks to the time I see her come in the door. You know, because if anything happens, there's, you know, right there.
There has to be a time frame. I don't care what you're doing in life, where whether you're working and, you know, being a road cop and a supervisor and stuff, if my daughter called me, I answered the phone.
Absolutely.
Know that, okay, they normally get off the bus at, you know, 2:45 and it takes them 10 minutes to walk home. You know, if your child calls you at 2:46, you need to answer the phone. That's not a phone call that can wait.
Yep.
That needs to be a phone call that you answer. Are you okay? Let them tell you what's going on. If it's something foolish, then obviously you can say, I'll call you when I'm done, but let them have the ability, if they need to communicate with you, you know, in that time frame, you need to pick up that phone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
But
you
a
know,
lot of parents don't do that.
no, they don't. And the other piece too that I think is really important is to have a safe word.
Yes.
You and your parent and whoever is approved to pick you up, because people can come and, you know, say, oh yeah, I'm here to pick up Rick. Oh, who are you? Oh, I'm his aunt. You know, okay, well, you're not on the list. That's the first thing. If you're not on the list, right, that's the school's heads up. But maybe you're walking home by yourself, you're mad at your best friend, and then somebody comes up, it's like, hey, your mom told me to come get you. You know, very first question. And we have to train our children, and that's the thing. And I hate that we have to do this. I do. But look, this is $150 billion business, and it has not stopped in the pandemic. I'm going to get a little forceful here, and I'm sorry if I upset anybody, but look, I just had coffee with one of the local officers that all they work is human trafficking. All they work. And he said to me, he said, look, Jan, he goes, pandemic or not, he goes, I have not slowed down. I'm working more cases than I ever have. And he goes, he's like, these kids got to go back to school. He said, they're getting into so much trouble and so much mischief. He goes, they're vandalizing, they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I'm like, ooh, okay. All right. And so that's the thing, is that we've got to train our kids to be aware of their surroundings. You know, heads up, eyes open. Keep your phone in your hand. You know, you can listen to music, but you've got to you've got to look around in all directions, because people can come up from behind you, right? And do things.
Well, today we see adults and children walking around with their iPhone, and they're walking. I mean, there's hilarious videos of people walking with their phones, falling in the ponds, into fountains, you know, walking in the doors that are open. Because I used to tell everybody back in the day, you know, most people could have walked right by Osama bin Laden and wouldn't even recognize them, because they just weren't aware of what was going on around them. You know, in law enforcement, we use yellow, orange, and red. Your green is like that's you. You're walking to the pole, you walk into yellow, you're aware of what's going on around you. You see that blue car that continually drives by you. You know, you have to be in that awareness spectrum.
And, you know, and that's the thing, is educating our kids to be aware of their surroundings for their safety. And a really great tip for your kids: everybody wants to be a hero. Everybody wants to be a superhero. Everybody loves superheroes, right? Because you get to feel good and you get accolades and all the stuff that comes along with that, right? So this is something that you can actually coach your kids to be like, look, you could be a hero. You could save someone's life, right? If you stay aware. And I used to, you know, talk to my daughter about that. I said, look, I said, I'm counting on you to be the only person at the four-way stop that's not looking at their phone. You know,
Yep.
so if four people come up and two of them are on their phone, you and the other person on their phone are we're just going to wait until they go.
Right.
Because, it's not going to do that.
If something does, your children need to know if something doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. And they should just pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, I just want to let you know I was walking home and I saw this.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the best way, because these kids know what's happening in their neighborhood.
They do. And, you know, it's Nicole just posted something that was really brilliant. She said, and now the added risk with kids wearing masks. People can't identify kids as easily if they're.
Oh, yeah.
No, here's the thing. And it's, you can look this up, right? If you're walking outside, you don't need to have your mask on. You don't need to do that. So the moment the kids leave the schoolyard, they can take their mask off, you know, walking socially distant. So, you know, how that goes, but they don't need to have their mask on. But if someone still has their mask on, that's also a little clue, because it's like, wait, you know, CDC is very clear, recommended, you know, if you're in closed environments and you're not socially distancing, wear your mask. If you're outside.
Hey, adults, that goes for you when you're driving a car. If you're all by yourself, you don't need to wear your mask.
No. No. And that's the other thing, right? Is it's a really great excuse to use that. And that's, you know, we just want to be aware. You know, we train everybody, trust your gut. Your gut knows. There's more neurotransmitters in your tummy than there are actually in your brain. So trust your gut. Okay. So we got little guys, we got middle schoolers. Now let's talk about high schoolers, where they know everything.
Can I just throw my hands up in the air and say I give up?
They got it all handled, right? You know, what's a great way to have a conversation with them that still, you know, honors their level of independence that they're trying to figure out. And at the same time, you know, we got to keep them safe. This isn't fully developed yet. The prefrontal cortex isn't developed until you're 25. So as much as and they act older too, right? So that's why parents go with how they're acting versus science, which is, this isn't quite cooked yet, right?
I think you need to let your child, and I say child like a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, you're getting that age where I want to treat you like an adult. So I want to be able to have that adult conversation with you. But at the end of the day, you're still my kid. I remember my dad, when he was alive, when I was a
young adult.
Yes.
Young adult.
Right. As in really not an adult, but we want them to feel like they're moving towards that goal.
Absolutely.
But he used to always tell me when he was gone for days, he'd be like, all right, Rick, because I was the oldest boy, you're the man of the house. But at the end of the day, if I did something wrong and he came home, I still got my butt whipped or that talking to. But allow them to have that conversation with you, but treat them as that young adult. Yeah. Because they're going to tell you things that if you lower that barrier for them, they're going to, my daughter never had a problem communicating with me or my wife, because as she got older, we treated her like she was older, but she also understood, you're still my child, and my job is to protect you and make sure you're okay. So you got to give them that space, but at the same time, that space comes with the responsibility of, you have to talk to me, because if you don't want to talk to me, you're not getting that space.
Yeah, you know, and it's a really great way to keep the communication lines open. And we've had a couple more people join us. Holly, who's one of my interns, joined us. Hey, Holly. And then Heather Fitzenhagen, who's running for Senate over on the far side. She's a huge, so major shout out. Heather, thanks for joining us, because she is a huge, she's just committed that we end human trafficking. She was very instrumental in, helping us pass several laws. So I just am grateful that she hops on these every once in a while and joins us and more, just participates.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's over in your area, your neck of the woods, down Sarasota. So, I think you're pointing to something really powerful, Rick, and that is keeping lines of communication open. And if we start younger, with proper body part names, creating an environment of responsibility, because at 6 years old, you can put your toys away, right? 11, 12, you can start to help with the laundry and empty the dishwasher. And, so it kind of this hand in hand growing up and chores at the same time. And as they get older, my mom used to say, gave people a box. She's like, she was like, I kept the parameters here. And as you started to bump up against them, I'd expand them a little bit, safe enough that you wouldn't do anything silly, but also in enough that, I had the experience of a little bit more freedom. Right.
Right.
And she'd expand. If she needed to bring it back, she would, and we'd talk about it. And that was the beauty of the relationship that my mom and I had as I was growing up. It wasn't always, roses and whatever, but I was very clear where I stood. And when I honored my word, when I came home, when I said I would, when I called, when I said I would, that actually gave me more freedom. And the conversation I used to have with my daughter, I said, you got to figure out how to play the game. You got to figure out what the rules are, right? Once you know what the rules are, then you can actually have conversations about them. And honoring
I think
the rules that your parents give you.
as we grew up, that was called accountability.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of kids don't have that today. I get a kick out of, but I go over to my daughter's house and have dinner. My wife and I are sitting there. They ask to be excused, but they know when they get permission to be excused, they take their stuff to the kitchen. They come back and push their chair in. They go wash their hands, but they have responsibility, so they don't have to sit at the table, but they have to with the adults, but they have to be accountable for their stuff. And as small as that is.
Yeah. And as a parent, that's our job.
Yeah.
To create accountable and responsible adults. It's not our job to be their friend. And,
right.
And I think that's, if there's a parent out there that has played that role, I invite you. It's going to take something. It will not be easy. Okay. I want you to get that. I get that. And it's our responsibility to create an environment so our kids can become responsible adults. And that's one of the conversations to have with them. It's like, look, it's my job to make sure you win out in the world. And it goes by a particular set of rules. And it's my job to teach you those rules so you can actually win at this game called life.
Yep.
Growing
up to be an adult, you're going to wish you were a kid, because adulting isn't all that great.
Nap and cookies, I'm telling you. And then the last group, because, colleges are starting. Some are going to be online, some are going to be in person too. And this is really the first time that a lot of kids have left home. They're living in a new city. They're living in a new environment. They don't really have anyone to hold them accountable other than themselves. So what are some conversations we can, you can have parents have with their kids before they leave?
One of the things I think parents miss out on, and if you have the ability to do it, you should do it. And that is, first and foremost, go to the campus where they're going to be at. Yeah. Learn the layout of that campus. Don't count on a map, because some building could have been built, some building could have been destroyed. So that way, when you're having a conversation with your child as they're a young adult going to college, you can say, they can tell you, yeah, my dorm, yeah, I'm walking from the dorm to the rec center. You kind of have that visual acuity. Be able to have that conversation. They need to, obviously, colleges today are going to tell you as a parent, your child's 18 years old. We don't report to you. We report to your child. And your child reports to us, because they're not a child, they're a young adult. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it started very young. You have that foundation of responsibility and communication, because if you're going to try it now that they're away at school, that's not going to work. So You
Yes,
know, with my
exactly.
daughter, she was away. She didn't check in 3 or 4 times a day, but when she was away at college, we'd hear from her once a day.
Hmm.
Only because I didn't care if she was going to a party. I mean, I called her out one time. She was at a party and she was holding a red Solo cup and everything. And I was like, "So you went to one of those parties, huh?" And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Because you had a red Solo cup." She's like, "So?" I said, "Well, the vodka bottle behind you was kind of a giveaway."
Yeah.
You know? So, but she laughed about it and she said, "Yeah, we stayed in the room. We didn't go anywhere." Okay, listen, kids are gonna do that kind of thing, but they got to know that they can have that open conversation. And trying to start that the day they go to college,
Yeah, isn't the time to do it.
you're too late.
Yeah.
They
No,
need to,
I don't know that you're ever too late. It's just going to take something,
yeah,
to have that dialogue. And
especially in college.
mhm. And I think the other thing too is, human trafficking happens it at all ages, everywhere. It knows no socioeconomic, demographic, or geographic boundary. And when I used to talk to the youth at college, I'd say, look, be very careful going downtown because you have taxis that are partnered with doormen that are partnered with bartenders. If you're going to go in a Uber together, you get picked up together, you get dropped off together. You never leave your drink alone.
Who,
Your drink, or if you leave the drink alone, you get another one. And you and you watch the bartender open that beer or open that, because there are trafficking rings that, the taxi cab and the doorman and the bartender all work together.
and people don't realize how quick this human trafficking thing occurs.
Hmm.
You get a kid in college, they go to a bar, you drop a roofie in their drink.
Yep.
No one's responsible for them, or, oh, I'm going to take him home. Now he or she takes him home, and the first thing they do is inject heroin into their system,
Wow.
because now they
Yep.
get them hooked on that, and they're starting to do things in order to get that next high. We saw it with crack cocaine. We're seeing it with heroin. You know, that it goes that quick. As quickly as I unfortunately explained it, that's how quickly this happens. So your child in college needs to know they should be doing things in pairs, and they shouldn't be going anywhere with anybody they don't know, or, oh, I'm going to go with Johnny.
Yeah, I don't care if it's your best friend's brother's cousin's uncle's sister. I don't care.
Correct.
If you
Correct.
don't know them, no. And trust your gut. That's the one big thing. And, we remind parents, it's like, look, we all had that family member or that person on the block that, whenever they were around, just didn't feel right. Couldn't put language to it if you were little. And it's just like, oh, it's, creepy, whoever. Have your kids have that at minimal, have that conversation. If it doesn't feel right, you go the other way.
Talk to your kids about having a designated babysitter. And
Yep.
when I say that in jest, but 4 of you go out. Not all 4 of you need to drink. Someone should, it's kind of like driving. You have a designated driver. Have that designated person
Mm-hmm.
that this Saturday is not your night to drink.
Right.
Last Saturday was, tonight's not. Your job is to make sure we all go home with you.
Exactly. Really, really great, Rick. So we've got the last 2 minutes, and I just want to thank you again for being on with me. And
Anytime.
for everybody watching, I hope this has been helpful. You can, give some thumbs up or some hearts to Rick for spending the time with us. And I want to let you know, we are having this conversation for you, and we're going to continue to have the conversation. I'm going to put a link in the comments for our parenting toolkit. So it really starts the conversation with you, apps to look out for, what to kind of how to have these conversation starters. And then we're going to do a parent training, a full-blown on live training program just like this with parents here in a few weeks. So look out for some information about that. And, Rick, any last words you want to share with anybody?
Watch your children. That's your job. At the end of the day, watch your children. If something doesn't seem right, call the police. Don't call a friend to find out if the friend thinks that's wrong. Call the police.
Yep. Exactly.
Take care of your children and make sure that they make sure they know they can have an open and honest conversation with you. You may not like it, but let them have that conversation. Then you can go back over
Give them the
why
space.
maybe it wasn't appropriate.
Absolutely, give them the space. Well, Rick, thank you again so much for spending time with us. Thank y'all, everybody that joined us on Facebook Live. Give Rick some love, hit some hearts, hit some, and we will talk to you very soon. Good night.
Good night.